Okay, how did Marshall keep his spiritual youthfulness? Still loving, still optimistic, still happy, still playful, still joyful. What happened? Well, at some point, instead of getting bogged down from sort of, through the 20s onwards, his 20-year ages, to 30 and so on, he found he wanted to trust in God. Now, choosing to do that, imperfectly to begin with, of course, takes time. It's a big adjustment. There isn't just a flash of lightning and, I now know it all. I knew it all before, and then I found I knew less, rather than more and more. He got some assurance, some trust, some hope, which protected him, shielded him from the attrition of living that turns, people that become teachers, they come in, it's a vocation. They want to bless children. They want to be a blessing. They love children and they're optimistic. And as time goes on, they become this grumbling inferno in the staff room of all that's wrong. And it's a parody, a story, a reflection on the life of all men. How their life turns from optimism to pessimism. Why? Well, one is because they're trained to see everything that's wrong, in order, of course, to put it right. That's how we improve our standard of living and our way of living. But it's very depressing. It's very negative. And if you start to recognize the uncertainty in the world, well, that's a bit frightening. It's not good. It's not what you want. You want assurance, and you haven't got it. And you get very bitter and twisted. It's not what you hoped. Of course you become lifeless and you die spiritually within. How could you not? So you need something from outside of yourself to come in. Some revelation, transformation, some act of God. Now, typically, it's not the way I came. I came through, as you know, being extremely happy and in love. And I carried on with that love in the form of, well, quite literally switching it to trusting in God. I found I wanted to trust in God's existence. How amazing. What do you do in this new world, this new dimension? Wow. So it did hit me as a revelation. I mean, I didn't come down for 10 days, as I've said. I was high, flying. Alone, but not alone. I don't mean I saw angels and, God was chatting to me verbally. But I was high and I was relating to God. Flirting with the idea of God. And almost the word flirting is almost correctly used. I don't quite know how else to say it. Curiosity and penetration of, do we mean, am I? No, I don't think this is, really? I mean, but yes. I was fellowshipping with God without knowing, well, semi-knowing it. How does it happen to you? It happens to you by being in the company of someone that has that experience already and ongoing in their communication to you. I was reading a book by Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi. Did I want to be a Hindu? No way. Wasn't looking for a guru. If I was, I'd probably choose Jesus. That's my culture. I'm not. I'm a humanist. I'm secular. But it's a fascinating book because I do take it that he is talking about his experiences with these astonishing people that he's met, with their miraculous, if you like, yogi-type powers and so on. And saints he met, Catholic saints and all sorts of people. But spiritual and miraculously linked. The miraculous was grabbing me, wasn't it? Why? I don't know. The sheer attraction of wholesome imagination, I suppose. Wholesome, not, thinking about war and terror and so on. And you're in that company through the book. You're in my company at the minute, just listening to me. I wish I was in yours. Well, there'd be more to and fro going on, wouldn't there? But you know what I mean. When your kids fall into bad company, drugs and alcohol and rowdiness and crime, you get pretty concerned because you know the effect it's going to have. So too, if you fall into the company of a saint, secular get very concerned. Oh my goodness, he's got religion now. That won't do him any good. My mum was absolutely blank when I told her, I'd come to believe in God. Perhaps you'll grow out of it. And Dad, I wouldn't dare tell him. I'd just poppycock nonsense, absolute rubbish. The story has it, Jesus says, I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Life eternal. And you're listening to him. Why? Because he's presents to you as a good man. And one who presents to you as suffered crucifixion. What on earth is this story about? I like happy endings. And the world doesn't see the happy ending, doesn't believe the resurrection, just sees the awful death. Do you see it? Captures their attention. You may think this is a devaluation of all of the theology that's built up on the atonement and all that stuff. I tell you, it's far more valuable. Just as we didn't see that when he called God Dad, that it was everything to his ministry, why he was sent. How could something so minor as the name he chooses for God? Well, okay, it must be important to religious people, but, look, God's been called all sorts of names. What's so special about calling him Dad? Abba, Father, Heavenly Father, Righteous Father, Holy Father. Oh, Father. And probably not Father either, it was Dad. Abba. That he's not just all powerful and frightening, he's all loving and utterly approachable. An integrity that stays with you always. I've not called you servants or slaves. I've called you friends. Because everything that my Father's told me, I've given unto you. Do you see, I've shown you how much I value you. I've given you everything that I value. What more love could I have given you? It's not bleeding to death on some tortured cross. That doesn't do me any good. That just makes me convinced the world is appalling. Or would that push me into seeking something else? Well, yes, that's true. Yeah, okay. But God is not someone that needs your sacrifice or must be paid for the damage you've done. Dads are not like that. Shouldn't be. Victorian dad may have been. Perhaps why we shouldn't use the word father. It's Victorian. why we should use the word Dad. It's more like Abba. Jesus, understanding of God. Let me pause. Better rethink this. Oh no, it's not that, is it? It's that you have to rethink it. What dawned on me was I must have chosen to believe that God didn't exist. Why did I do that? And will it bring me life eternal? Will it bring me joy and happiness? Or will it make me end up like these people, like the economists I see here in the department? I told my best friend, who was also a lecturer in the department, and I was a student, I said, I'm not sure I want to be an economist. I look at the economist and I think, I'm not sure I want to be living like that. He said, yes, I know what you mean. Norman Bromberger, he was a super chap. White South African. Had to flee South Africa because they interrogated him for 90 days for being pro-black. I mean, he's white, but, So he fled the country. And when the regime, was ousted, he went back and he became an associate professor, whichever university it was. Good on him. What a friend. And Jesus says, you see, I've called you friend, not servants. I'm changing your whole view of what God values, you see. And he's not saying I'm God. Just saying, I've called you friends. Don't worship me. Love God. Put him first. All your heart, soul, mind and strength. Love those who rescue you, like me, Jesus, as yourself. Not as God, for goodness sake. Not my message that you should swallow the Trinitarian view and worship me as God. Do you think I talk to myself when I pray? I talk to God. My view of God. All that ever came before me were thieves and robbers. They've stolen your heart from loving God. You worship them. You think of Abraham as your father. He's not your father. Your heavenly Father is God, not Abraham. And of course, you're saying even if you did worship Abraham, you're not actually behaving like him. I tell you what he said, and you want to kill me. But he's sowing seeds in the story, isn't he, to encourage them to want to kill him. He knows the ending he wishes to have. It's not put on him by God. The only thing that's put on him by God is he's sent to tell us that God is our heavenly Dad. And in John 17 he tells us he's done that, he's finished the work. But still he gets crucified in the story. He chose to do it. Why? Because that draws attention to those who are hard of heart. May just soften their heart enough to have ears to hear. What? Something awful? Something unacceptable? No. Simply that if you trust God is your Dad, He will transform your life from living death. If you would enter into life, keep the commandments. This is my commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Do you see that? It's about love, not obedience, not power and authority. I've said it all before 1,000 times, literally, in these recordings. Thank you, Dad. Simply holding to the view that God is your heavenly Dad and loves you. Whatsoever is good and lovely, think on these things and you'll come to know Him better. that very practice of thanking him regularly, consistently, always returning to thanking him, will transform your life into life eternal, true life. That's it. There's nothing more that needs to be said. But I can't stop talking. Thank you, Dad.